Hello, everybody. Kirk Spano, and I am recording with a different mic because the last one apparently wasn't so good. This is retirement income options, and we are going to start with how we always start, screening. Russell 3000. What's the Russell 3000? It's the Russell 1000 plus the Russell 2000. This includes all the large, mid, and small caps, and it is not adjusted for earnings like the S&P 1500 is. If we wanted to add the S&P 500, we could, but they don't have, unless I've missed it, they don't have the S&P mid caps and small caps. So I have actually requested it. We'll see if they get to it. They're paying for all these licenses, so maybe they'll add it. I do like the profit weighted companies better, but such is life. All right, Russell 3000. We want to take a look at companies that on the weekly technicals have an RSI that is low, but the oscillator is starting to trend upward. So weirdly, Spirit Airlines would be something for the adventurous investor. Chegg, I don't remember what they are, the insurance. Stone Ridge, I mean, some of these are showing up. And if you were just going to start doing all kinds of research, you could. Here's one, New Fortress Energy. We know that Kirk likes New Fortress Energy. So we take a look at this chart, and it's scary. It's very scary, right? Switch it to the weekly, though, and what do you have? Oh, look, a Wyckoff buy signal. We like Wyckoff buy signals. What other buy signals might it have? Elliott Wave? Elliott Wave says it's exhausted to the downside. Very clever. Institutional range? Institutional range says that this is going to act like a magnet to pull the price back up. And what else? What else could be exciting? I think that if we go back to inception, we see that these Wyckoff signals have ended up sometimes being early, but usually end up in a gain. So what can we do? What we want to do, say, okay, look here, Wyckoff buy signal. What should I do about you? Well, there's a couple things. One, this is one of those areas that often signify an inflection point. The odds of this company going to zero because they just refinanced all their debt, right? I think that the line that showed that it could go to zero was based on technicals that thought that maybe it could go to zero, but as you know, they just pushed out all their debt to 2029, issued some shares. They financed another refinery, or excuse me, another LNG facility. So this looks like it's definitely in a bottoming process. Could it go down a little bit more? Sure it could. But if you want to sell cash secured put, you could go here and say NFE. If I think the bottom is potentially 8, which is what the chart says, maybe I sell a January 9. Next increment down, what can I collect? $1.55. And that would get me a net price of $7.45 if this is assigned to me. So I really like the January $9 cash secured put on New Fortress Energy, because as we've talked about in recent weeks, the story is good. And now the chart is saying Wyckoff says to buy. So if you don't have a starter in this one, if you're lucky enough to not have a starter way up here, you probably should get one now. Intel, strike this out. Intel also has a buy signal. The target, I think this is an old target, so we'll throw it out. Take a look. Okay, Wyckoff says probably a buy. Shot up. It's going to jitterbug. I think you could sell puts on this one. So let's take a look at January. I like January because I think that we probably get that January effect on the positive side. So if you move this to 2250, which is the next increment down, there might be a 23. No, 2250 for January. Get almost $2. So you'd have a net price of a little over $20.50, give or take, if you sell that cash secured put. I like that one a lot. Somebody mentioned Brookfield to us. Let's see what Brookfield Renewable is doing. Probably not yet. Already had the rally. Let's let it come down a little bit and see what it does. It should get another buy signal. If it does some jitterbugging in here, see, that's what happens. You get these buy signals. So let it do some jitterbugging. The Wyckoff hasn't sold off all the way yet, right? You're looking for a red bar. Haven't got it. Red bar signals exhaustion of the selling. Red bar. See, here's your red bar where my little hand is. And look what it matches up to, a bottom. So you're generally looking for the red bar. and or a series of orange bars with one of the orange bars high, what you can see here is that volume adjusted went right way down. So you have, pull this over, only look at the last 1 year. There you go, 1 year. And it automatically changes to a daily chart, and that's fine. And you see that the big support is down around here. So 28-ish. Red line is probably it's gonna get pulled to. Probably doesn't go quite that far down. Look here, look here, look here, like a horizontal ray. Look what this looks like. Look, that's resistance. It looks like it's going to turn into support. Could you sell puts if you wanted to be a little early to the game? So December 30s, get a $1.62. That's a net price of $28.38. That's probably around where the bottom will be, unless something bad happens. Then where's the other support? Look at that. Had a hard time breaking through, got above, failed, came down, got above, but then it held this time. So I think you have some risk to 27-ish, probably 28 something. So, you're kind of splitting hairs here. If you're going to wait, I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait for a down day. And give me $1 off of this. Let's just get down to a little under 30, and then I'll probably sell the put. One of the things you can do is you set a good till cancel order. Say, okay, I'm cool with 30 minus a premium, and I want a premium of at least $2. So what you can do is set up your good till cancel, do a December 30, but not any less than $2. I think that would be reasonable. You could put 3 based on what I'm telling you here, that I think that's kind of your absolute bottom. So I don't think it breaks below that. I don't. And if it does, it's temporary, but I don't think it breaks below. I think that this level right here is pretty convincing to me, right? False breakout, comes down, but it held this time. See, it held there. I think it holds again. So somewhere between the two red lines is probably about where your price is going to get to. So just go ahead and set a good till cancel order, and either at $2 or $3 or a little bit, a little bit of each, All right. PBW doesn't really have puts. It doesn't really have a put market. iClean does though. So iClean would be the other clean energy ETF to use. So let's take a look at iClean. We already looked at the PBW chart and the stocks of the week. All right, so it really has sold off. This is the money flow index. Really just got destroyed. And honestly, I'm just going to take those off because I'm not using them. Not really using this one either. I really just like the Wyckoff, the RSI. And in fact, we can give those a little bit more space then. Easier to look at, right? So we're looking for a red bar or a series of oranges that kind of show a capitulation and selling pressure. That's what Wyckoff does, right? It's measuring, it's kind of supply and demand, distribution and accumulation. So we would expect for there to be support here, but if it doesn't hold, that's a pretty big airdrop right here. So we want to go back a little bit. Somebody tell me what looks interesting here. What looks interesting since about here? What do you have a series of? Higher lows. Beautiful. Who was that, Brandon? Yep. So you have a series of higher lows. Now, it appears that maybe it was violated. So we have to see what happens here. If this is a violation, that means there's more downside. And then you probably have, look back to here, say, okay, it's still a violation. Maybe not. See, the problem is this one and this one. You really don't want to see it. You really don't want to see it go below there. But if it does, it's in that triangle range, which means it's just going to bounce up. So I think we're to the point where we're at the last couple of dimes, right? So if you were a shorter term trader, this would make a lot more, be of a lot more consequence. But if you are looking to sell cash secured puts, well, let's see what the nifty market has for us. January, probably do a 13, or should we do a 14? Oops, wrong one. 14, we'd be getting about $1.04. That gives a net cost of 13. It's pretty good, isn't it? 1 into 13 is what, 8% times November, December, January times 4. So about a 30% annualized rate of return. Right? I just eyeball these and shorthand them just because I don't need to know the exact percentage. I just have to be kind of close. I think if you sold the January 14, you could do that, or you change it to a 13 and then make this $1. but I do think it's getting pretty close to bottom. I mean, that is what this chart is saying. I mean, I think we're splitting hairs. I mean, this is 1330, 1335, 1325, depending on the time frame. And we're at 1365. We're pretty close. I think we're pretty close here. I think over the next week or two, you should be looking to just take a position, to be honest with you. I think I'm probably going to take a starter here in the 401k plan on iClean, and in accounts to trade options, I'll probably also sell a put. But my stock and option accounts, which only maybe have a quarter of their money in ETFs, they're selling puts on specific stocks that we mentioned last week, and they are buying certain stocks. So as I've mentioned a couple times, follow TJ Rogers. TJ Rogers stocks are where it's at. So we covered a couple of those last week. Catara, I actually bought stock in certain accounts the other day. I don't know that I'd mess around with selling puts here. I would. It's a dividend paying stock. You could get a pretty significant rally if something happens in the Middle East. I just want to own this. But if you're going to sell puts, I guess the January 24s are probably the way to go. Let's take a look at the chart. I believe this one had a Wyckoff signal, didn't it? Oh, I don't even know what that other symbol was. So this one had a Wyckoff buy signal here, and you can see that it rallied. Could it get down to, I don't even know what that line is, that from the last chart? Could it come down to about 24? Yeah, looks like it. Pretty big support here, though. There's some pretty big buyers here in this area. And that's what the volume weighted bar does. So I don't know. I mean, can it get a little cheaper? Sure. Could the world end? Yeah. But, the low end here is probably down in the lower 20s again. I have a hard time believing that this signal gives up so easy. I'd be buying the dips. I think a $24 put to January, if you want to do it, gets you a buck and change. That's only about 4-something percent annualized. It's only about 12%. It's not breaking my 20% rule. I really like to have annualized returns over 20%. When you can't get an annualized return of 20%, it usually means that most of the risk is gone, but you ought to just be a buyer. So I like the idea of just buying Catara. You can sell a put and get a teeny tiny annualized rate of return if you want, but I would just buy the stock. All right. Any other option questions? Lithium Americas, you just buy the stock. There's no option market there. Nothing worthwhile. Anybody wonder if you should be selling a covered call on anything? What do you have that's highly valued? What do you have that's gone up a lot? Palantir. I think Palantir is the obvious one. I've sold out of Palantir. January $45 call gets you over $4. So that's 10% for 3 months. That's a big 40% annualized return. I would be selling calls on Palantir relentlessly here. Their valuation is way out of line. They have a PEG ratio of like 5 or 6 or 7 or something. It's huge. So the growth doesn't justify the PE. That's what you got to remember. Palantir is only growing 20-something% a year. They shouldn't have 100 PE, which is what they got right now. So I just sold it. And I sold it in the 30s, so I look dumb right now. But when it's in the 20s at some point, which I think it will be, then people will just forget that I sold it in the 30s. AAOI, I mentioned this one on Stocks of the Week. I have been selling the December 20s. That's what I already sold a while back. You get a lot of money for those, $3 right now. We know that they have pretty big resistance in the low 20s. So I'd be selling these covered calls pretty aggressively and even trimming a little bit of stock if you want to, because if you loaded it up when I did, which was around $10-11 a share, you're at a double in just a couple of months. So find a way to put some of this profit on your books. Maybe sell half and then sell covered calls against half of what's left, something along those lines. Bank of America, just sell it. If Warren Buffett is selling it and I am writing, where is it? Oh, we'll do this. And I'm writing an article for Seeking Alpha called "It's Time to Sell Big Banks." Sell Bank of America. All right. So I don't think that they have any imminent problems, but I think they have very limited upside. And the next recession is going to be real bad for the big banks. But look, the signal was way back here. Here it is, right? It's a heck of a rally. since the financial crisis, right? This is pretty big resistance up here. It's gonna take a lot for this to break out the new all-time highs. Big resistance here in the 47, 48 range. No me gusta. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. Very limited upside. Very limited upside, and quite possibly, if I'm wrong and there is a recession, it's gonna lose 30, 40, 50%. So I wouldn't be messing around with selling covered calls. For the most part, I'd be selling it. If you want to keep a small position, January 45s. Oh, we need to get the covered call. There we go. January 45s. Get a buck for. Not much. There's not much excitement there, is there? Not much excitement there. I'd just be primarily a seller. Yeah, there's just not a lot of premium there. I'd mainly be a seller here, get based on valuations and growth rates. I just think it's probably a choppy stock. I think the whole sector is going to be choppy. See what happened when they were up here last time. Can it break out? Oh, I mean, I guess the potential upside is up here, this last orange line. Can it make a run at 60 with a 30% gain? Maybe. But finding 30% gains isn't all that hard. Finding 30% gains that don't have 50% downside, right? That's what you want. So I would say if Warren Buffett is selling Bank of America, and we know that the financial crisis was bad for all these companies, and we know that probably there's another financial crisis at the end of the decade, I'd be getting rid of these. There's not really there's just nothing for it. All right. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. I will get these articles written. I'm working on this one right now. It's actually, I have the notes in the system already. I just gotta make it look pretty. What picture should I use? What picture should we use? We use politics. Ooh. Should we use this one? Let's use that one. That looks fun. No, that's probably divisive. What should we use? AI? I don't know. Oh, that one. Should we use that one? Ooh, don't be scared. Let's use that one. All right, everybody. Have a good day. And I am actually trying to make these more concise, but I need to have these articles written first to make it concise. And otherwise, you just get my brain dumps. And those are fun sometimes. But, after now, I have to edit it and get it down to 25 minutes. So, all right, everybody. Have a good day. And let me know if you're going to be out in any of those cities I'm going to be in. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Take care.